throughout the United States and throughout the rest of the world on puzzle making. So it should be interesting. I think we got any other puzzle makers here in the group? Uh-oh, next me will all be puzzle makers. I got one right there. So it should be interesting.
Check. Got a volume control? Okay. Born and raised in Dayton. 9 years old. My dad buys me a Gilbert puzzle set, little wire things, you know, chains like you see at the restaurant. Yeah, I like that. I love them ever since. 19. Look at how I can hold these up. 1990, I bought this puzzle book, Puzzles Old and New and How to Make Them. It really inspired me. At this time, I had 200 puzzles on my collection. I bought this book and started making puzzles. After that, I got Stuart Coffins. I'm going to name drop here names of puzzle designers and makers. Stuart makes a lot of geometric shape puzzles. And then I got asked by a publishing company to put together a WoodLogic puzzles book. And they wanted me to write the book, and I didn't know how to write. I was a technical advisor to Charlie Self, who was a book writer, and he's the one that did the woodworking. He did a great job on this thing. Didn't make too many copies of it, and I was able to get a few. The first thing I want to do is show you two puzzles. This is a 6-piece puzzle, and anybody in the puzzle group calls this a burr, a 6-piece burr. Burrs are like a burr that catches on your feet, okay? This is a burr puzzle, 6-piece burr puzzle. This is a burr puzzle. So I'll be saying this burr, that burr, what have you. I use these blades when I get a piece of wood in the shop. I don't like to use wood that's much more than 42 inches long. I'll make them short sticks, and I cut them down with a 32 force blade woodworker 2. Get away with my nose.
Yeah, if you put it further out to your cheek.
Can you hear it?
Yeah.
Can you hear it?
Yeah.
Oh, great. I didn't like that breathing with feedback. I'll take the rough edge of the board and put it through my table saw, trim the edges, get theirs all squared up. I do not use a jointer. Everything's cut through this blade to get it squared up and cut to pieces. Then, if I'm cross-cutting small sticks, I'll use the Chop Master, which is really for radio arm saws and stuff like that. It has a back angle, but it really works nice. 5/8 or above, I use this to cut. And if it's less than 5/8, down to 1/4 inch, I'll use this Tenaru blade from Japan. This is a 16-tooth blade, carbide tip. It's really, really nice. If I have a large piece of wood that I'm not going to have the edges perfect on it first, like the woodworker 2 is, I use the Diablo. I can take a piece of walnut that thick and that wide, I can cut it down to sizes. Then I get into this other blade to get the final edges really nice. This blade I bought just to get the bottom grooves of the curves totally flat. All these have the jagged teeth. And then this one, I have ground down so it's flat. But this is not as nice as this one, but this offers me another opportunity I'll talk about that later.
How many teeth on that one?
Huh?
How many teeth?
Oh, I think that's an 80 tooth. Yeah.
How many table saws do you have?
Oh. Ask me too quick. I'm a dry mouth guy, so I'm gonna have to be drinking water.
Sure, it's water, sure.
When I started making these puzzles, my wife and I went to the Artistry and Wood Show in Dayton. I took a bunch of these other and another bunch of little puzzles like that. Nothing exotic like this. This was in 1991. This is one I'm going to pass around so you can make it. These two pieces are interlocked, right? It comes apart. And you'll see how it works. So I'll pass that around and get a visual on that. You can make the thing for your children, grandchildren, what have you. We made those puzzles one 2-day weekend. I had a table saw in my shop. I paid for the table saw for 2 days. And it was a Delta top saw. I had one table saw. I have one bandsaw. I have 3 by shit. I got a 4-inch wide belt sander. They get most of the use, and I got a Sandoflex on my drill bit. So, but I do drilling. You'll see that later. I'm going to get this out of the way here. So let's go to Stuart Coffin. Stuart Coffin has all these different shapes. And I'm going to pass this bag around. Where's that? Here. This has all the different shapes in it that are required for these puzzles. Puzzle pieces are cut on a 45-degree angle and set in a V groove, okay? With these stops, I can make all those shapes with square sticks by clamping them in, running through the saw. And if you have a stick that's square, you can see the cut you have to make that shape. That shape is in that container. Another one is the one that I showed you standing up, which is that shape. It's cut at that angle, just put it through there, slice it. And we got a really small one, which requires a different cut. And then we got a right and a left one of these, and this kind of perpendicular. So let me show you. It makes this puzzle. It makes 12 point. 12 point, and these are almost identical. You just add pieces to it. You add some of these little corners there to make that puzzle. This is called 4 corners. Comes apart. And then finally, diagonal cube. The finished product of the diagonal cube is this shape. It starts off with a skeleton like this, and by putting those little pieces in here, 1, 2, 3, 4 times 6, 24 pieces in there, glued in a certain way, whether it's here or here or here. And then you take the bandsaw and slice it in a cube, and then you put it on my belt sander, and I just sand it down to where it's nice and even. will not take this all apart. Oh, I forgot to mention, I have two guests here from Boca Raton, George Miller and his wife, Roxanne Miller. They're doing a cross-country trip to all the puzzle collectors in the United States, saying hi, because they're going to move to Italy someday. So they stayed with me Thursday, Friday, and I says, can you come to the talk? And they're here. Plus, I got my friend from the Cincinnati Club, Rick Brashears. We drove down together, and of course, the president of the Woodworkers is Dave Mosier in the back. He's with us here today, so thank you for coming. So, anyway, this thing comes apart, and I don't want to mess with it.
Good, because it's mine.
If I dropped that thing, I'd be in serious trouble. So that's the coffin stuff. You see all these colors of wood. This is Pau Amarillo, or it's called Yellow Heart. We have some Purple Heart, probably a ebony, what have you. I'll pass this around, and you can see the different woods, and on the back is the name of the woods, the different colors of wood that I use. So, what else? I won't send that around yet. Okay. The main jig that I use for cutting by the way, when I make a jig, I use a high-density polyethylene running board. You got to cut these down on your joiner or your planer to get them to the 3/4 to 3/8.
You don't have to do that. You go to Walmart and you buy breadboard, plastic breadboards. It works fine.
Cut them in half, cut them up?
Yeah, just cut them on your table side.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Walmart?
Walmart.
Okay, thank you.
What's it called? What kind of board?
Breadboard, plastic breadboard from Walmart.
These are my toggles. Pull the piece down. And this is a piece of acrylic plastic, which is exactly 6 inches long. And from here to the saw cut is exactly 6 inches long. So when I have a piece of wood has to be cut less than 6, I keep that in. That's in about 95% of the time. I'm not really using that a lot. I clamp it down, go through the saw blade. I'm gonna need the camera now. How do I get my saw blades perfectly vertical to do the edge cuts and cut all these things? I just take Baltic birch plywood, cut it in strips. These start out this long. Mark the top and the back so I know where it's at. And I run it through. Put these in there in a stop. And run it through the blade. Pull it out.
Look at that on the camera.
When they go together like that, you know it's perfectly vertical. Okay, any questions on that one? You probably got your own ideas, but I found this very rewarding. So, with this jig, I need to make the size of a box. And these are stops for that box. And I will lay them in this area right here and bring the piece of wood up to that stop and cut it. How do I get this piece perfectly? Well, I need to know how big the piece has to be. And I have a plethora of things here. I got 1/2 inch, 3/8, 1/4 inch, 3/16 inch, an 1/8 inch. You can buy these at the woodworking store. 1, 2, 3 blocks. So I just place these in the place I want in the blade, which is 3 inches, and I cut that sacrificial, not sacrificial, but the stop is, I cut it and I pull that out, switch it from there to there, and then it's all gonna be 3 inches. And I do that for everything I do. If you'll see it, I got a lot of different shapes and stuff like that. Excuse me. Any questions? I love questions, please.
Tom, you said that you've got some really, really thin tolerances. How do you do that?
Oh, in this box, besides the 1/2 inch and 3/8, I got 30-second shims. I got 64 shims. Slow down, Tommy. 64 shims. And I got 5,000s, 3,000s, 2,000s, 1,000 shims. Now people say, oh, you can't work wood, it changes in temperature and in humidity. I says, it does. But if I cut all the puzzle pieces in one day, I know they will all be the same. And that's how that comes out. That's a good question, thank you.
How long do you work on one in a day if you're doing a run of puzzles?
I usually get out in the shop at 9, take lunch break, take my nap. Go out for 3 or 4 days.
What kind of wood do you use for those?
Oh, the wood's in the puzzles?
Well, you're cutting things that are a certain thickness to very, very fine numbers. What kind of wood is that?
I would like to try, you're not talking about the stops, are you? You're talking about the woods for the puzzles?
I guess I'm talking about the stops. I'm not sure.
Okay, these are my stops that I've made. They started at 1/2 inch, 1 inch, in 1/2 inch increments the whole time, all the way up to 4 inches. And this is just for making puzzles 1 inch long, pieces 1 inch long, 1/2 inch long, stuff like that to make a puzzle. What you would see in this one. Everything's in units. This is a 5-unit cube. So this is 5 units long. This piece is 4 units long. This is 3 units long. That's 1 unit long, and that's 2 unit long. You add them all up, and I don't cut one stick at a time. I tape them together like this. I'll pass this around. You can see the 9 layers of wood that's in that. Here you go. And it shows you that when I'm 4 or 5 sticks at a time, I'm getting 4 pieces every cut. Sometimes it's a real small puzzle. For instance, this puzzle here, I may have bundled about 8 of these together, sliced them all at once. You just don't want to keep feeding these. And the other thing I do is you'll see there's tape around these puzzles. I keep that tape on there, keep the tear out at the back, at the lower, and the other pieces against that, stacked together tight, they don't have much tear out at all. So I get a little sacrifice here and there. Any questions? The woods I use this is just any random wood I have for this. You can see that these are 4 sticks wide. I must have had a lot of extra wood, and I just said, well, I'm gonna cut them into these stops. Now, any puzzle in here doesn't use these. I got puzzles in here that have 1/2 inch, 5/8, 7/16, what have you. And I have all these, I got stacks of these things. And the first thing I do is I take a sacrificial piece and I cut it through. If it's off 1,000 for 2, I'll put a shim in there to get it correct. That's how I get it. Then I start, and I measure every time, every 5 cuts, I'll measure with my micrometer to make sure I'm true on the thing. Any questions? Everybody asleep? Okay.
When you do a puzzle, how many puzzles at the same time do you do at once?
Oh, that's a good question.
Gosh, that's a good question. I just
question.
finished 42 puzzles the other day. I don't like to go that many, but I know I'm hoping it's going to be a good seller, and I'll show it to you in a little bit.
It's going to be a great seller.
I've made as many as, I'll show you one over here that I think I made 74 of them. But I like to keep it down into the 20, you know, wood's expensive, exotic woods are expensive. So I have to go to find out what wood I have in my shop or in my storage to get the wood I want to make the colors. And then there's woods I don't like to use. Purple Heart's rowy with splinters. Canary wood is excellent. Walnut is excellent. Maple, I had a problem with maple a long time ago, but then I found some maple that had more flat plies, and I look at the edge and see if I can get it through the planer correctly. So it's all, everything's hand-picked. I bought some Sapele the other day, and my goodness, it was just perfect. But I was telling Dick on the way up here, I bought some Sapele and the board was like this. And I said, well, the pieces are only going to be 6 inches long, and they were all warped. They just didn't work. So I had to go in and finish the puzzle off with walnut, which was a pretty good deal.
Tom, you got a question?
Yes, sir.
I think people would appreciate kind of understanding how this whole process starts. How you end up with a puzzle and, I mean, as far as what the initial stages are.
Okay.
You have a puzzle designer and
Thank you. See, I got these
Wow.
clients in the community.
Wow.
They know what to ask. When I started off, I didn't have anybody that I knew that would give me a design. And then I went to a conference in Atlanta, Georgia in 1993. And one of the guys, I had some puzzles in there. One of the fellows by the name of one fellow was named Bill Cutler from Chicago. And he says, I have a friend who makes burr puzzles, but he doesn't like puzzles you have to glue together. And he says, do you think you can make this puzzle for me? And I says, you know, well, Bill Cutler, all right, there's a guy, yeah, I can do it, you know. I've sold many of these, and I have made several sets of them. Each puzzle has 12 pieces. Are you trying to get it on the camera?
Yeah, I'm trying to get it.
Okay,
so we can see it.
I need to get a target so I don't hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Is that right?
Wherever you like.
Okay, let's get this out of the way.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
A lot prepared for lately up here.
There you go.
It's not dark.
Yeah, we might want to turn.
You want to turn the lights on?
Turn the lights off for that.
Each piece has one large triangle and two small triangles, 4 of which will make the large triangle. And
Well, now we don't have light on it, so.
okay, all right, I can hold it up.
Yeah.
And,
It's too bad we didn't have any.
so everyone's different. And the name of this puzzle is the Bermuda Hexagon, which means get lost in Bermuda, things like that. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I made a lot of these. And over the years, I thought, what can I do to improve things? And so I recently come up with a Bermuda Hexagon with all small square triangles. All of them are small triangles. Then I used coffee tree wood, which has a very strong grain structure. And you can see the cross hatching here. And when you glue this thing together, now you talk about 6 times 12, 72 pieces in here glued together correctly. I want that shape, it goes 3 layers deep and in the same orientation. So you got to plan ahead of how you glue these things. You follow what I just said?
What if you make a mistake when you're gluing it?
Oh, what am I mistake?
Yeah.
Good question. Microwave. I take puzzles in the microwave a lot and I glue them. Scrape off with a razor blade, not a sander, a razor blade, so I can get it back to a place where I can glue it back together again. And I'll show you another way of using the microwave on another puzzle later. And so consequently, this turned out really pretty. And I think Roxanne has one, yeah. Yeah, they're puzzle collectors. The yellow dot means my kids want it. I said, go through all my puzzles and you put your dots, family dots, on the puzzles. So when I know when I don't want to sell them, you've got it. I'm moving around for you.
No, it's I'm trying to get it so the light works out, but
Yeah, okay.
I'm having trouble finding a good
Yeah.
spot. That's all.
This is gonna be a puzzle you're gonna want to see when I take it apart.
Okay, Tom, I'm gonna interrupt again. So you get the puzzle designer, and he sends you a design, so how does that work?
Yeah, we got off track.
Yeah.
So Bill Cutler gave me that design to work with. And then I went to the first International Puzzle Party in 1994 in Seattle, Washington. And every year we have a puzzle party, United States, Asia, Europe. United States, Asia, Europe. So I've been to Japan twice, all over the United States, Finland, London, all the countries in Europe for puzzle parties. And I meet these people and they become designers. Can you make this puzzle? First guy I met was Oscar van de Vetter from the Netherlands. And he made this puzzle, he designed this puzzle called shift burr. Now, normal burrs have sort of a sliding mechanism to them, and you can take the next piece out. But the shift burr has stair steps in it. You pull it one way, and the piece comes up a little bit. This comes up a little bit, and it ratchets itself up, okay? That's a shift burr. Oscar said, you did such a good job with that, you can make all my puzzles. So I've got several puzzles of his here. And then the next guy, after Bill Cutler and Coffin, was Oscar, and then Franz de Vroeg. Franz made these two puzzles. And then Dick Sonnenfeld. I don't have the Sonnenfeld burr here, so he made puzzles. And then I got Ken Irvin, who's got some puzzles here. And got that puzzle, which I'll show you later. And then the most prolific designer I have right now is from Singapore. His name is Gopit Kayam, and he sends me some really good stuff to make. And I think I've got something in here as his,
Okay,
which
so
I'll show
what
you.
does he send you, Tom?
Oh. I pay him for this.
You're being fed.
We travel all over the world to get, no. Bill Cutler sent me a sketch of the pieces and how it went together. That's what he sent me. Stuart Coffin, all of his puzzles are in this puzzle craft book. It shows you different shapes and stuff like that. The pieces you have to use.
Tom, can anybody buy that book and make the puzzles?
I don't know whether this is available anymore.
Okay.
I don't know whether it's available there. This is a very old puzzle. I don't think you can buy it. It's really fortunate. So yeah. Dick Sonnenfeld. When Dick Sonnenfeld sent me this puzzle, he took the pieces in layers like that, and had A down here all the way to the bottom. So he knew where there were solid pieces and when there were voids. And I had to extract that and make this puzzle. And while we're on this puzzle, I'm holding it in my hand. No, I'll do one more thing I know you're waiting for. It's called a bird tool file. And Ken Irvin sends me bird tool files, and Pitt Cayenne sends me bird tool files. What you do, you get the bird tool file, you press a button, and it shows you the puzzle. You can rotate it, and then you can look at each piece at a time and rotate it, so I can figure out what the puzzle is, what the shape is, and then you go down to the puzzle solver, and it shows you how it goes together. Builds together, boom, it's done.
So is Bird Tool a piece of software then?
Piece of
It's
software.
Like a CAD?
Yeah, is it a CAD? Yeah, piece of software. You can buy Bird Tools.
It's free.
It's free. I mean,
It's
yeah,
free.
you can get it. Bird Tools free. It was designed by one of the guys in the IPP, International Puzzle Parties. Yeah. So, good questions, good answers. Anything else on that? Go ahead.
You ever build a puzzle that you couldn't put together?
Oh, a lot. When they give me a design, I said, I need the answer. I mean, I can't make it because I have to fit it, and stuff like that.
So when you get a design from somebody, you actually have to interpret how this thing is gonna take its shape and the size of the pieces.
I could determine, if I made this out of 3/4 inch wood, it'd be monstrous, you know. So I decide a puzzle size based on what somebody wants on their shelf. Like, you know, George might have a collection, and he doesn't want a bunch of puzzles this big. He wants to have more puzzles on a particular shelf. So I figure out what I want to use. And I think this is probably, it could be 7/16 or 9/16, or this is 3/8, and so on down the line. And I make that decision based on, and then they give me the solutions, and I work out the design. Did I answer the whole question? You had 3 parts there.
I was just kind of curious as to, when you get the information from an individual, then you have to, do you know how it's gonna go together, or do you have to?
Not until I go to Bird Tools.
Okay.
When I see the answer of this puzzle, like it's on a sheet of paper, the Bermuda hexagon, I see how it goes together. Yeah, exactly. And then, what was the other part of your question?
I was just curious how, you know, sometimes I'll lay in bed at 3 o'clock in the morning to figure out how I want to do something.
Right, we all do that.
And I just wondered if that was some of your processes.
Yes. I'll show you a jig or two that I made, or a puzzle computer I made. I just said, I gotta stop, I gotta take a nap, I gotta lay down and think about it. And I wake up in the morning with an aha moment, and there it goes. I haven't really taken, this is another Stuart Coffin design, and I'll pass this around. This is a Stuart Coffin design, what have you. Stuart Coffin made a lot of tray puzzles too, besides the geometric shapes. And a tray puzzle is a puzzle that you have to work in a frame. Here we have a T, and here we have the F puzzle piece, another puzzle piece, the Z shape, and you have to put these puzzle pieces in this this tray. Well, you got a piece that goes in this corner here, really nice, and this goes here, and gee, this may go here, and then, oops, it won't go. See, Stuart Coffin's diabolical. I'm going to show you the answer so you realize how diabolical he is. This is called forfeit. Play on words, if you give up, it's a forfeit, right? Goes in a tray. It goes in as an angle. And he's made so many of these angled piece puzzles. Here we go. Incoming. Thank you. Did we get that done? Thanks. So I have a desire to make a bunch of these, let's say. Now, I used to take, when I say units, it's just 3/4 inch unit. That means this is 1.5 inches, and this is 2 1/4. I used to make this length, and I glued these two little pieces on it. For this shape, it was the grain was going this way, for instance. So, but I made a jig that would cut them off like this. So I would make this, I would glue a set of 5 sticks together in that shape, and my jig will slice them off exactly the same every time. And I do that with this one, and so on down the line. The only problem with that jig is the fact that this yellow heart gets torn out at the back, at the exit. And it hurts me that way. I guess people are okay with that. Nobody's complained or sent the proposal back. But so I've tried to answer how I get the designs, who I get them from, what I do. I got to have all the answers. You gonna ask the question? Do you say that right?
I don't know if this is sort of the same question, but I think I'm curious how much of the design is left up to you. You said you work out the design. You know, so is it that the all of the pieces come to you from the puzzle designer, you know, worked out, and the way they go together, or?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, that long question. When Cope at Cayenne sent me the numlock puzzle, this is a binary type puzzle. You pull this piece out, this piece moves over, then you can pull this piece out, that goes back, put that back in. It takes 52 moves to move these up and down and get it out of there. And I said, kid, you know, this is the third puzzle like this that you got so confusing. You got to have a way of starting it. So I put magnets and pins in the puzzle so I can take it apart and put it back together. It's kind of tricky. Don't laugh. I'm sorry. Taking too much. I'm almost going to take the whole thing out of there. I'll do that later. I'll lift the whole thing out and put it back in there I was talking about.
Are the puzzles broken down in categories?
Oh, yeah.
So what are the categories?
There's about 14,000 different categories.
Well,
No.
we got interlocking puzzles, take apart puzzles, sliding block puzzles, box packing puzzles. It goes on and on, you know. For instance, this is a box packing puzzle. You got these pieces in here that have to be packed into the box, okay? And I'll show you a couple other puzzles that are box packing puzzles. This is really a box packing puzzle. And Shifter is an interlocking puzzle. So there's about, what, 12 categories?
Yeah, about 12.
Yeah, 12 categories, yeah. Next.
On say the 5-sided type puzzle.
Hexagon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are the outer portions glued together, or are they? Yeah, so that you just took off.
The box.
Oh.
Is glued together.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, glue is the use.
yeah.
What is the glue you use?
Oh, I use original Type Bond, and I've used it all 32 years. I like the way it works. I like how it sets up. I can glue a piece together. I just put it on a sanding thing for touch up in 10 minutes. There's ways of gluing end grain to end grain, side grain to end grain, sizing the ends, putting it together and let it set. So Type Bond 1, original Type Bond, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
And that's what comes apart of the microwave?
Yeah, yeah. I didn't try the others, but that's the one that comes out as easy.
How many seconds?
Usually if I just made the piece, 16 seconds will do it. And then I'll show you some situation that I put it in for 35 seconds. It'll be another puzzle. Yeah. Can I do this? Here we go.
Okay.
Okay. Now we worked with box packing puzzles. A couple other trick puzzles that I worked with. This puzzle comes apart. It comes in shapes, and I decided to make a heart shape and put things in here. And I finished one of these. It has a little green or red felt bottoms. Another yellow mark. My kids want it. And then I said, well, is there any other shapes you can make? And this one comes, it's a square jobby, same pieces. It'll come all the way apart too. Getting the angles right, get it put together.
How many levels on those puzzles?
3 levels. You start with a basic shape. All the shapes, when you cut them, are all the same size, and they got this 60-degree cut in here. And you put the first piece down, you tape the bottom of it, and you put the next layer on it at a certain rotation. And then the last one you put it on in another rotation, but you add another 2 degrees, another few degrees. If you get them all lined up, they get so tight you can't get it apart. But once you get it started with that rotation of 1 or 2 degrees, it opens up. I learned that lesson the hard way. Another puzzle that Pitt designed was numbers. And it's a 1, 2, 3, 4. You want to take the 4 out, and you want to take these out. Need to get back to 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if I have a box that has the top, middle layer, and the bottom layer the same thickness as the pieces, the top, middle, and the bottom layer, this middle layer is the same as that, you're going to have a tight fit in there. In that groove inside there, there's a groove inside there where there's wings go in. So I'm going to pass this around so you can feel what I do. You can feel that the main centerpiece that's glued to the number 2 piece here is like this. This is thinner by 5 thousandths on either side. And you glue that together, let it set up, and it slides into that same thickness slot that's on the inside.
How do you get it 5 thousandths thinner?
I take a 5 thousandths shim, and I take the thick piece, I put the thin piece on the shim, and I have by the way, I glue on glass. I have tempered glass, so it's perfectly flat. And I use my square to get everything perpendicular when I'm gluing stuff together. So when I glue 5 thousandths on the bottom, glue it together, it's already 5 thousandths on the top because it's 5 thousandths to 10 thousandths thinner. It's glued and it goes into the slot. By the way, I got to show you how this comes apart. If you turn the number 3 over, it doesn't look like. If you turn the number 4 over, it doesn't look right. If you turn the number 2 over, it doesn't look right. But if you take the number 1 out, and turn it over, it's still a number 1. Okay? So then you make the number 1 and number 2. I just screwed up. I turned it in my hand and I don't know which direction I go. That won't go that way. No. Let me start over. Okay, take that out. Take number 1 out. Turn it over like this. Put number 2 in there. I'm having a hell of a time today. But that's the way you do it. You turn it around. You get too nervous and make these things. It's crazy. But the other thing that Pitt did, this is called stumbling blocks. The one I just showed you is called numbers. Stumbling blocks is a little bit different in that these pieces rotate in that box like that. You can see that back in the back? They lift out. And the bottom pieces have a notch, miter corner. The top have a corner. And the box has these little pieces in the corner so you can't do it wrong. And these are the smallest pieces I've so far made. That's a very small piece for that puzzle. And you think, how do you make that? How do you cut it? Well, you make about a dozen of those sticks and you put them together in one stick, slice them off. But what would you do to make those angles?
Call you.
Good job. Well, these don't have to worry about the slot here, but you have to worry about this going into this. So I had, before I glued together, I had to take these pieces and sand them on my belt sander a little bit, just touch it and touch it, so they'll go in there, what have you. But then I have a problem, when you get this thing together, you put it in and it doesn't work, because you haven't sanded these round enough. And I was having the devil of a time rounding these, because if you have a sanding stick, you can do this a little bit, come around here, and it slides off. So I put it in one side, other side. That keeps this from drifting to the size of the pieces. And I just go around and sand and sand.
Oh, that's clever.
And you stroke that the same on every piece, so every goes down the side of yourself. So painstaking, right?
And how much do you charge for these things?
This one's this is about a $150 puzzle. This I'll show you is a $200 puzzle, and I think stumbling blocks is the same category of that, maybe 150. I don't know for sure. We put it in.
Does it come with a solution, or do you charge extra?
How did he send this to me? This can't be worked on burr tools because burr tools can't handle rotations. So he told me how to make. He makes PDF files. Shows me how to make them. Yeah.
Mine said he's designer. I mean, are they people who just seem to drool all the time and live on a mountain someplace?
Have you seen the guy over
Bill
here?
Time is a teacher at a technical school in Singapore. Oscar is a physicist. Franz is an architect. They got all this engineering and science background and stuff like that.
So they do this in their own head, or do they do it on a computer? Or how do they develop the designs in the first place?
We call them two types, an organic and a computer. And Oscar was an organic designer. He designs it in his head. I'm not quite sure about Franz making these puzzles.
Computer.
That's computer.
Bill Cutler uses computers. And Pitt uses computers because I can get him in virtual files so he knows what's going on. It's a whole new process.
So how many members are in this international program?
It varies from country to country. When we have one in the United States, we have a lot of people come over from the countries and stuff like that. A few from Japan, a lot from Europe. When we go over there, there's a lot of people from the United States go, a few Japan, but a ton of people from the European community go in there. With husbands, wives, and stuff like that, it could be 500 people, and maybe 250 designers and collectors. And when you go to a puzzle party, there's a design competition, there's a puzzle exchange, and if you want to be in the puzzle exchange, they tell you how many puzzles you're going to get. You got to have 80 puzzles for every person you're going to exchange to, and then you have to make extras to sell to pay for the puzzle you just made. In the design competition, you enter puzzles in the design competition, and do you remember if I had any in the design competition?
The Wanderer was in.
The Wanderer, yeah. This is something that Oscar designed. This shows you the cage that I have to make. And you'll see that there's a frame inside there with notches. Then I covered this whole thing with 1/16 inch cherry. And there's one window to allow this Wanderer to come out of there.
Oh, we can go forward.
This is the Wanderer, rounded that way and that way, with two buttons on it.
We've already
And
seen
there's
it.
one notch that goes into.
They've all seen it.
And it can go this way. And you try to go this way, oops, can't go. So can we bring it down, go this? Will it go around the corner here? Yeah, it can go, nope, won't go. So it's a maze. You get it in there about 10, 15 moves, and you're gonna spend the rest of your day trying to figure it out. So, yeah. This was interesting. I started this with stacking sticks together, and to save wood, I actually put smaller pieces inside. This is kind of hollow because I didn't have that stick to go all the way through. Then I have a thing on my bandsaw, I roll that one and roll at it, and I hand sand it to curve and all that stuff. And I used to try to drill those holes in there, but I found out you could just put these buttons on here with glue. So that's how that was made. This is called the Wanderer. You know. Another puzzle that Oscar designed, which I thought was fascinating, was the matchbox puzzle. He was able to take 5 matchboxes and glue them together. You know that, you can just lay it up here if you want. 5 matchboxes, so you can see they're glued differently to each piece. Fascinating. So he says, "Can you make this out of wood?" Well, sure. And this is out of wood. I didn't want to pass this around. I sent samples around to show you. These actually have not only the sleeve, but each one of these has a thing for matches if you want to put it in, you know. So.
I'd never get inspired first.
Fun. This puzzle here is called Space Rings. And it took me more jigs to produce this puzzle than any other puzzle. Sanding jigs and cutting jigs and stuff like that. You start off with a circle that you want to make, thickness and all that stuff. And then I had a jig that cut 3 of these out of the circle. So if there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you had to have 2 circles to get the 6 pieces. Then I had another jig to hold this circle thing to cut 60-degree ends on these to glue them. I finally figured out if I had these gluing things that hold together, everything was off a little bit. So I took a heat gun and heated that one area and forced it into the right spot. And I did it all around to get perfect. Now this puzzle inside, this actually comes out. And you give it to the person with these out. Now you got to get it back in. When you look at this ring close enough, you'll see that you have to have a solid slot that can't do, if you had an opening too big, you could just drop the things out of there. You can see dovetails in there. Go close enough to those ends. I had a problem with this puzzle. This is called torture, and this is called extreme torture. 17 pieces, and the way these pieces are made, I figured they could break because if I get the right piece, I don't know whether you can see this back there or not, but they're not continuous around here. There's spaces in here to allow them to do things, to move things around like that. Oh, here it is. You can see this slot in there. Well, this joint here is not going to be very strong. You could break that joint. And that's the same thing with this one. So I took each one of these pieces and glued them all together, and I put support pieces into where there were spaces so they wouldn't break. And I run these through a router, and I put these holly splines in here for strength. A lot of work. A lot of more work with this one.
Have you seen this one?
I make this piece here, glue these 2 pieces together with the center piece. And then I drill, and then I temporarily glue this to this one, and I drill all the way through. Before they're glue sets, I snap it, bring it over here, and glue this one, and drill the other direction. Now I got a straight hole through for dowels. So all these are doweled, hidden dowels inside there. Pretty nice, huh? Crazy. After 30 years, you learn a few things. Oh, there's a bat. That's an idea, yeah. We're getting to the end, aren't we? Let me show you. I really want to show you this button burr. I want to show you this one first. This was designed by Dick Sonnenfeld. Now you see these pieces in there. There's a ton of dowels in there for strength. This is all maple. I distinctly made everything out of maple. So you can't believe that this is connected to that one, and vice versa through all the mechanism. But shoot, I'm missing something.
So
So Tom, what's the square footage of your shop?
God, it's huge. It's 10 by 15. That's why I make puzzles. If I buy a board that's more than 10 foot long, I can't cut it. I mean, I got to shove it down to my radar installs. You push it in, run it, cut it, push it in, cut it. Oh, here they are. I wanted to pass these around because there's another puzzle that's made similar to the 4-piece cube. Those connections. I just wanted to show you the doweling here, the doweling there, and this is a cross doweling. This goes a dowel here, I'll let it set and go here. Then these open holes here and here go into the piece from, I got real long drill bits to do this. So you can see how the dowels goes. So I can put these on there, I can make sets of those for the puzzle, glue them all accurately. Then I take my Sandoflex and sand them real smooth, cut them down a little bit, make them real smooth, so they're a little bit smaller, and they're easy to work. Then I put them in the jigs to hold them. Oh, let me see here.
How do you clamp all your glue ups? I mean, all your joints are so small and tiny.
I've got a lot of those small spring clamps by Irwin. Yeah, I got about 40 of those. Then I got some small bar clamps, you know, by Irwin. Yeah. So yeah. Another puzzle by Oscar, which was a fooler to me. This is called Dutch rings, and I made this thing. I started making it and says, wait a minute here. These don't come apart. They're all interconnected. You can imagine what this is going to look like if I dropped it. So I figured out I had to make as much of this puzzle as I could up to the point of finding out where I wanted to make the last glue joint of each piece altogether. And of course, when you have squeeze out, you got to be very careful that you don't have squeeze out to glue the other pieces together. So that's where the clamping came in, you know, get it all set up and work it around, and you know, I might even separate these a little bit like that, something like that to glue these two together. But yeah, it's like a figuring out what to do next. I want to show you this puzzle because this is really cool, but I don't know how to do it without the camera. If you turn the lights off, we won't have enough light, do we?
See, I mean, there is one other thing here. I guess there's a thing here that says.
Where's the portable?
Yeah, you've
light?
got a portable
That's
light up
pretty
there,
good.
right?
Kyle, where's your light?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Your what about your LED light?
Oh yeah, here.
Want to try clamping that up?
If you're actually serious.
Yeah. Give it a try.
So this
That'll
light
be
was
great
from a
because I'll
talk
be able to
earlier
work this
today.
on another puzzle or two. I'm really surprised that single clamp will hold that whole thing up.
Not turn the
Here you go, darling.
Camera's trying to make it.
Yeah.
It's just not working.
There
out.
we go.
There we go. There we go.
Turn the overhead off. That's the-
Can you turn the overhead off and see what happens?
Tom, what does that look like before you tip it out? So it's a 3x3 grid?
Yeah, 3x3 grid.
Okay.
Yeah. These two puzzles are identically the same. How these puzzles were designed is you have to determine a unit size block. And everything's based on this unit size. In other words, if this piece is the same as this piece, then you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And every piece has a multiple of those. You can see how that looks. Wrong way. Okay, if I have 9 here, 3 layers, 3 times 9 is 27. So I have 27 unit cubes in here. Okay, you can see there's a little movement here. Is there any opportunity for here? Okay, let's figure this out. What's the next multiple of above 27 you can achieve with these unit cubes? Math teachers?
36?
Let's do 28. 28. 4 times 7 is 28. So I have to have 4 pieces.
This is another spoiler.
On an end. That go?
Yeah.
4 pieces on an end. I'll put that in there like that. And then the next piece goes in like that. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. You're not seeing it. So put the last piece in. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times 4 is 28. And I can do the same thing with this one because of the same puzzle. There. Just that little bit. This is like 64th or business card thickness for that would go in there. Do you all remember when you were children you had 15 puzzle?
Yep.
You had to get these 1 through 15, and I thought about that a lot. And I made another puzzle called a Sliduco puzzle that has 8 of these in it. You can see these, what have you. And I'm going to pass this around, how these move in here. So, you're getting your exercise today, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm worn out.
So, I made a puzzle called Circles and Squares. Okay.
This is your design?
Yeah. This is not mixed up. This is what they look like. And Tony touched the laser and made a swipe. So this is a demo model. Can't sell it. This is a $100 puzzle. This is the square side. When you work the circles, the squares get mixed up, and vice versa. You get to solve this side, the other side is mixed up. The interesting part of these things is there's no number 1. You don't know what goes in that corner. And a couple guys have told me this is crazy. But I ended up making 42 of those the other day.
Is there a solution that solves both sides? Or
No,
you can only solve one side?
You can only side one side. Yeah, I didn't want that to be in there. I wanted you to have to work at it.
If I stuck it in the microwave for 35 seconds, could I unglue it and reglue it so you can have a solution on both sides?
Here again, we have those pieces sliding. We have those pieces sliding together like this. Well, if you got the same thickness here and here and here and here, how do you get this piece to slide in this backside? Can you see that?
Yeah.
I'm going to pass these around. Well, I had to do that was I got all these glued together. Then I took that Freud blade with an 1/8 inch wide curve with a flat bottom, and I have a jig. There's 2 sides, keep my fingers out of the way, and I just one at a time. 15 times 40 is how many I had to do. I'll pass that around, you can see the feeling of that. Am I running out of time? I'm going to show you, hopefully, 2 more things. When we have a design competition, we have trophies. And I've been asked to make trophies for the last 6 or 9 years, I believe, or 10 years. And this is called Cryptos. You want to turn the lights back on? I can do this with the lights on. Thank you very much. Cryptos. You have a 6-piece burr, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, inside of a cage. Well, the burr pieces basically are easy to make. Get the right food move. How many moves do you think you did on that, George, the other day? 47?
Something like that,
Yeah, 47 50s out of there. The key is, how do you make this? This is a continuous loop. It has to be perfect for these to fit in there.
You asked Tom to make it.
Huh? Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
So I said, okay, what can I build around and then get it out of there when it's closed? The first thing you do is you make 6 sets of these, all identical, which you have 6 of those glued together. You might be able to see those in there. And I'm not gonna, that's not me. I don't want to go too much time with this because I'm running out of time. But this is my jig to glue them. Like that. The next piece glue there, all the way around. And when you're done, it's held by magnets. And you pop it out. Push, it knocks it
So
out.
is the jig the same shape as what the burr ends up being
Yes,
together?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And you have
But it's removable.
Yeah, and you have to sand the, these are full size for the opening on this frame, but you can sand the burr pieces a little bit, make sure they go in. Yeah, it's wiggle room. I didn't get a chance to show you the push button burr, but I wanted to take the first piece out. This is designed by Ken Irvin, and it's really a good seller, and love it. I'll get my starting point here. Okay, five push buttons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And all the buttons are pushed out. Allows me to take this piece and move it this way, and then this piece and go this way and up. And this is where the square comes in when you're gluing these together. You lay these down on the glass and you put the square next to it, make sure it's just perfectly good. So you can put it together. You finally get it together, and lo and behold, it's got spaces here, spaces there. So you start wrapping it in rubber bands, and put it in the microwave for 35 seconds, and take all the rubber bands off an hour later, and it's like compacted down, it works. Now, even though this is like, let's say it's 9/16ths. This unit length is 5 times 9/16, but the squareness of this is less 5 thousandths left, which gives me movement. If I had them all the same, you can't have that in there. Now I'm gonna get to the last puzzle to show you. I don't think we're gonna have a chance to make that puzzle together, George.
Oh, did you want to show this?
I can fold everything up this time.
Okay.
Clean out crew. This puzzle is called 4-pack. My friend who has a laser cut the tops for me. We got holes, finger holes, tops and bottoms, finger hole here. And you drop these in, and you get all 4 of them in there. They're all the same shape. This is 60 millimeters, plus or minus half a millimeter. This window is just a little bit over. This box is 60 plus. This length is 90 plus, and so on and so forth. How do you make this piece? I mean, I tried it on a router by cutting him in 30 millimeters thick and then cutting blocks on a bandsaw and getting close around. And then I had to jig to hold him in a router. And when you get it right in this, it cleaves off a piece of flake. So I was having problems. A friend of mine who works at a woodcraft store up there in Dayton had a guy come in there from Cincinnati, and he was talking to him. He said, "Oh, I got a guy that makes you some cylinders. He's got a metal lathe, and he can get that within 60 millimeters plus or minus." So John Mosier from Cincinnati made these 21-inch, we made 21-inch long pieces, and then you could slice them off to shorten it to get in my jig, and he made me a ton of these. I think I had 34 to start, so tell me how many puzzles I could make out of that. So I built this special jig that I had to cut that notch in there. Got to cut a notch in there. These are 30 millimeters thick, so I put them, this piece here was built and glued onto the back of this shape, not this one, on the back. And then I put these along the saw blade, and I shoved this unit to the saw blade, so I go through there with a little bit of looseness, and then I glued this down, pull it out, and of course I clamped it down, pull that out, and then I was able to take this piece and put it through there for the first cut. Now you gotta understand, you would think you're gonna cut down the center of this thing, but it's gotta be offset 1/8 of an inch, because you're gonna wanna get, I don't know where my piece is. I thought I brought a piece. Here it is. You wanna, it has to drop out. So the first cut goes like this, and then, I got too many things up here. This slides in here, like that. Get the second cut, pull it out, and it's like that. So that's how that worked. Then I had another cut-off jig, 30 millimeters at a time. So that's it.
Tom, I've got one more question. What do you use?
I got more things if you want to see it. It's take a little time.
What do you use to get the plexiglass glued to the wood? What kind of glue do you use? Is it still the same wood glue?
What plexiglass?
The acrylic on the top. How do you put the plastic bit on the top to the wood?
You can't do that.
What do you?
I tried it. You can't.
How do you do it?
There's little pin nails in there.
Okay.
Yeah. Very small pin nails. I got the size of the pin nail. Tony cuts these pin nail holes perfectly for the size of that pin nail. Then I drill about that far down so I can drop them in and push them tight. And I don't go all the way so I can tap them in to be tight. And that's how I do it, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. Any other questions before we are off? Hey, thanks a lot.
Thank you.